Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to welcome to our stage winner of 4 consecutive U.S. figure skating championships, winner of 4 consecutive world figure skating championships, Olympic gold medalist, and fellow AMAC member, Scott Howard.
Thank you. What in the world? Thank you. So how do you even take the stage after an introduction like that? Dave, thank you so much. My goodness, I'm sitting there, I'm starting to shake. I'm so nervous because it's like, how am I going to live up to that? Oh my goodness, that's unbelievable. Thank you. Wow. Okay, now what? Good morning. You are my people. I have loved being here since the second I stepped into this hotel. Every single person I've met has just been warm and welcoming, and it's just amazing to see what can happen when like-minded people link arms to protect and preserve the greatest country that's ever graced this planet. So it's an honor to be with you. So why me, right? It's like, you know, me standing here is like so unbelievably unlikely. Like, it's the only word I can think of, unlikely. And it's just that. It's like, how do these things happen, right? So, you know, recently, my oldest birth son, he turned 18. He's a senior in high school. And, you know, I'm just like dreading, what do you want to do for spring break? You know, it's like, oh, no, just the world. And he goes, I don't know, Dad, where do you want to go? And I was like, well, no, where do you want to go? And he goes, with you. This will be my 18th birthday present and my senior year spring break. Where do you want to go? I go, you pick. If we're together, I'll go anywhere you want to go. So he picked this really incredibly impossible place to get to during like the hardest travel times we've ever endured as a nation. And we finally arrived. And as I see him on his Snapchat, you know, kind of checking out what his friends are doing, you know, in Mexico, I had to say, I go, what, are you sad that you made this choice? And he goes, no, I'd rather be with you than any of my friends in high school. And it's like, what a win. And I said, you know something, Aiden? I just feel like compelled to tell you this. And it's kind of started, it reminds me when I look over at Disney World, we were all there, and I'm sitting down because I'm exhausted, because just walking all day and standing in lines. And I just lay down in this lawn, and I'm watching people go by one after another after another. And I thought, I was overwhelmed by this feeling that every single one of those people that have just walked by have a phenomenal story to tell. And I just love to hear every single one of them. And so as Aiden and I were sitting on this beach, I just said, you know something, Aiden? Thank you for this, because at the end of the day, all we really have is our memories. And the more of them that we can collect, the richer our lives can be. And he was like, oh, Dad, come on, really, don't get all mushy on me. And it's like, yeah. So here we are. So I know what you were thinking the second I took the stage. You thought I was taller, didn't you? No, this is it, and I can't stand behind one of those because all you'll see is the top of my bald head. So here I am. You know, it's like I have these crazy friends. Like, I'm really drawn because I've had to stay in my lane. You know, when you're a figure skater and you're skating in front of 9 judges from 9 different countries, you got to try to find a way to be likable, right? Because you want them to all vote for you. And so it's like I just sort of stay in my lane. I try not to make any noise, and I try to just lay it down on the ice. But I'm really drawn to people that are just outrageous and vivacious and just take life by the horns. And one of them is this friend. He lives in Los Angeles. He's a marketing guy, and he's just Hilarious. He's Rodney Dangerfield from Caddyshack, right? So I just sit there and listen, and he one time he looked at me and he goes, I was dating would become my wife Tracy for just a few weeks, and we're sitting down watching sports. He goes, this is a friend that all guys have to have that women want no part of having friends like this, all right? And he looked at me and he goes, "You gonna marry her?" I don't know. And he goes, "Have you looked in the mirror lately?" These are friends that men have to have. They just do. We were sitting around another time, and he said, "Here's my latest thing." I go, "Okay, you got a latest thing?" Again, he's a marketing guy. "Latest thing?" And he goes, "Yeah, personal ads." I'm like, "What? Wait a minute, personal ads? Okay, do you remember newspapers?" Well, personal ads are something you put in there to try to get the interest of somebody to, step into your life. And I go, "Well, personal ads have been around a long time." And he goes, No. In my personal ad, you have to be 100% honest. So I thought about it for a minute. And he goes, "You ready?" And I go, "Yep." And he goes, "Hit me." Short, bald, half-neutered, chemoed, radiated, surgically repaired, retired male figure skater of unknown ethnic origin seeks a beautiful, intelligent woman for long walks, laughter, and an interest in my hobby for collecting life-threatening illness. That's a lot. And I got to take her, so all's well that ends well. So life for me began in a really unexpected way. I was unwanted, unintended. It was the late 50s. I'm sure there was a lot of shame involved, but this brave single woman decided to see it through and gave birth to a son that she immediately put up for adoption. So it took me, again, about a little while for the family to find me. But at 6 weeks of age, 2 school teachers from northwestern Ohio brought me home. I was wrapped in a blanket. I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah. Sitting there in this warm blanket, and they showed me to my sister, who was born of my parents, and she took one look at me and she said, "He's not very cute. Can we take him back and exchange him for another baby?" It's time and therapy, heal all wounds. But growing up as an adopted child is really amazing because, when you have a birth child, there's expectation, right? Like if you're in academia, like my parents were, you expect your child to be interested in school. If you're in athletics and you have a child, you expect your child to be interested in sports. But when you have an adopted child, you just don't really know what, and so you go, let's just see what happens, right? So I was growing up in his family, and it was really fun, and I had a blast, and I was doing all these things, and it was just each year, I would just explore, and it was just, and my dad was a PhD, a professor of biology. It was ROTC, and was very his lane was very narrow. My mom, my 4x4 mom, who I adored, I love her more than any person on the planet. I get to talk about her every day. She loved everyone, and she was a very nurturing person. So, of course, I was really drawn to her because I loved, again, she was just so much fun to hug, and she was just so unbelievable. And so she would just watch me do my thing, and she was just very entertained by it. But, that counter that's in your kitchen when your kids were growing up, that one that they run under all the time, and you just know that someday they're going to think they can run under that counter and they've grown just enough to bash their heads. That counter? Well, that never happened to me. I just kept sailing under the counter. And it was then they realized that I had maybe a problem. They didn't, again, adopted children, we don't know what to expect. We don't know how tall or whatever. We don't know. We're just watching to see what happens. And so they realized I wasn't growing, and they realized that I was starting to show signs of distress. And so for the next 4 years, I was in hospitals, in and out of hospitals. We started with a little hospital. They couldn't figure it out. We went to a bigger hospital. They couldn't figure it out. We went to an even bigger hospital, bigger doctors. They couldn't figure it out. Finally, we went to the biggest doctors with the biggest hospital in Boston Children's, and I had every single symptom of a disease called Shwachman-Diamond syndrome. And so Dr. Harry Schwachman himself was going to look after me. And I was there for a very long time. And it was about a year. And back in the day, it was a bed and a chair. It wasn't like children's hospitals are now. So my mom would sleep in the chair almost every single night, that she could. And it was very stressful for her. And at the end of my time with Dr. Schwachman, he sat us down and he said, okay, we don't know what's happened. We don't know what's going on. He has every symptom of Schwachman-Diamond syndrome, but he doesn't have it. So here's what the best I can do is send you home with the instructions of just live your lives and see what happens. Take him off all the restrictive diets. I was off dairy, sugar, and flour. Birthday parties were not fun. And just keep him on the supplement, but go home. And just maybe, who knows, he'll grow out of this. But enjoy whatever time you have. And so, my parents, again, were stressed out of their minds. And so let me tell you about the supplement. You know how you go to the pharmacies now and they have like flavor of the month? And it's cherry or bubble gum or whatever, mixed fruit. Well, flavor of the month, a year back then for my supplement was chalk. And it wasn't like it was vanilla chalk or chocolate chalk. It was chalk. And so the glass was about this big and about this big around. And every day I had to drink this stuff. And I hated it. I hated it. And it was like, it forced me to become a pathological liar. Mom, I gagged the last time I drank it. Can I drink it in the bathroom just in case I get sick? And she goes, of course, honey. Oh, this is terrible. Why do you make me drink it? And so, of course, kids get messy. They just figure they're going to get away with it. So it's like one day it's like, hi, Mom. You have to drink this. I will not drink this. You have to drink this. I will not drink this. So we came up with a phenomenal compromise. Our family doctor who lived right down the street came over and he goes, okay, I can solve this. So what they did was they put a tube up my nose, down my esophagus. No. Phenomenal. They would put the fluid through the tube, so I never had to taste it again. It was awesome. And when I wasn't using the tube, I would tape it to the side of my face and I put the end over my ear. Easy. It was the best. Everything. So finally, it got to the point where our family doctor came over and they looked at my parents and he said, man, this is an intervention, a one-man intervention. You guys are shot. They'd adopted another baby, I think just to hedge their bets, honestly. You never know. And they were just consumed in all the stress of my illness and all the pressures. And so he said, you need a morning off. And they're like, how are we going to do that? And he goes, I wouldn't come here and propose this without a solution. And they go, okay, how are we going to take a morning off? And he said, there's a brand new facility at Bowling Green State University where on Saturday mornings from 8 to noon, they teach children how to skate. And they go, is it safe? And they go, of course. There's hundreds of kids there. It's phenomenal. And so they go, will he be supervised? Of course. Everything is just really. So I went with my family doctor's children, and I walked in, and I saw 120 well kids. And I was like, wow. And they looked at me, and they went, what's wrong with you? And it's like, what do you mean? What's wrong? What do you mean? And they go, why is that thing coming out of your nose? And it's like, you've never been fed through your nose before? It's like, who's the weird one here? And so I started hang onto the wall, let go, hang onto the wall, let go, hang. And pretty soon I could make it all the way around the ice without touching the wall. Pretty soon I was skating as the best, as well as the well kids. And then soon after that, I was skating as well as the best athletes in my grade. Self-esteem is the most powerful agent on the planet Earth. If you feel good about yourself, everything changes. I started to grow. I started to get well again. And so my parents were like, okay, we want more of that. Let's just take him to the rink and let's just take him to the rink because it's the only thing that's worked in all these years. And I just lived at the rink. They had to threaten me to get me off the ice, and it just was one of those things. Problem was, there's a couple problems. One, back then it wasn't glass around the ice like it is now. When you go to a hockey rink, there's glass around. It was chain link fence. So it's like, hey, twinkle toes. Hey, little ballerina on skates. All the hockey players would just scream through this fence all the time. And it was like, it's like I was just found something that I love to do and I'm actually good at it. And they're just undermining my joy. And so it was like bullying. Really? Come on. And I wasn't a stranger to bullying because as soon as the kids at school figured out that I was adopted, you were adopted, you were adopted. Why do kids repeat themselves? I heard you the first time. So I go to my mom, like I go every time I had a problem, I go, they're teasing me because I'm adopted. You said it was cool. Well, it is cool. Well, they're teasing me. Just say this next time. So it kind of starts, you were adopted. Yes, I was adopted. My parents actually chose me. Your parents got stuck with whatever came out. I love my mom. So now they're like teasing me because I'm a figure skater. So I go to I'm playing hockey. No, you're not. I'm playing hockey. No, you're not. I'm playing hockey. Why do you want to play hockey? I said, no, I'm going to continue to figure skate. I skate better than all those guys. I just have to shut them up. All right. Okay, but we're going to just day to day because we don't know, you're little. And I know I'm little. Trust me. I know I'm little. So the first jersey I had was a Bruins jersey. Boston, anyone? All right. Wicked. All right. So the smallest one they had came down to here on me. And I come on the ice with my stick and my dress. And they're like, all right, man, now you're one of us. Really? I'm wearing a dress. So I played hockey for 2 neck braces, and then it was like back. But I wasn't very good. Like, I do okay regionally, and then sectionally I was average, and then nationally I was a disaster. The first time I went to a national championships on the novice boys level, it was Janet Lynn's last national championship. Do y'all remember Janet Lynn? In her time, the most popular woman athlete in the world, and this, she announced, was her last nationals. Standing room only. And whoever scheduled that nationals to this day, I want to slap them. Hard. Because they put the novice boys event as the event right before the senior ladies championship. And I stepped on the ice, and there were 17,500 people in the audience. And I rose to the occasion. 5 times. I fell 5 times in a 3-minute program. And it's still to this day, it's like, oh, like the pity applause was just like deafening. And then I got to the end of the program and they were just like, it's okay. I got off, my coach said, I don't even know what to say to you. You've never done that in practice. Well, I couldn't feel my legs. And so I just decided that I was going to go back. I was dead last, 9th out of 9, go back the next year and prove myself. 9th out of 10. The guy that came in 10th shouldn't have been there. He wasn't very good. Go up to juniors. All right, what's the worst thing that can happen? Last place? I'm not afraid of that. I'm the last place guy. And so I go to the juniors, and I actually beat 2 guys. 7th out of 9. Crushing it. And then it was after that competition that we came back, and my mother said, okay, everybody, family meeting. And I said, what's a family meeting? And she goes, just sit down. I have some news to share. Okay, everybody, I've just come back from the doctor, and I've been diagnosed with a disease called cancer. Okay, so I'm going to have some medicine, and I'm going to have some surgeries maybe, and I'm going to need some help around the house. So I just wanted to share that with you. And she looked at me, and she goes, and you, mister? And I was like, yes, ma'am. She said, we're basically bankrupt. We can get you through 1 more year of skating. It's your senior year in high school. And then next year, you can go to Bowling Green State University. We're both professors there, so we can afford free. but this is your last year in skating, so good luck. So I went back to the rink. There's a new coach there. My original coach retired, and this guy was like a big, like whip-cracking, disciplinarian, like head game player, and I was like, I'll have chips in the middle of the table. I submit. Tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. So about 2 weeks before the Nationals, I finally landed my first triple. Like I never landed a triple before. And it's like, okay, bucket list, check. Last year in skating, landed a triple, check. Okay, we're good to go. And we get to the Nationals, and my mom arrived, and her arm was in a sling because they just removed her left breast and all the inside of her left arm, all the lymph nodes. And she was wearing a wig because she'd lost all her hair to chemotherapy, and she was just like smiling the whole time. And I was, are you okay? And she goes, I'm great. Is it the drugs they're giving you? And she goes, no, I'm great. You go out and skate and have some fun. So I go out for my long program, and I was in a little bit better position because like I finally figured out a way to work hard. You know, I didn't know how to do that before. I was just sort of showing up. And my coach goes, oh, one more. We're headed out to warm up. And he goes, no, wait. And I go, what? And he goes, don't warm up your triple sow cow. And I said, why? And he said, because we don't want to know if it's there or not. Okay, sounds reasonable. So I go out to skate my program, and I land my first jump, and it's like nice. And I go around for this triple sow cow, and I go, last competition ever. Who cares? I throw this thing. Now, normally, my view at a national championships at the end of my toughest jump in my program is this. Right? But this time, it was this. And I just landed my first triple ever. No. I got so excited, I forgot to screw up the rest of my program. And I won junior nationals. Like, what? And it was remarkable. And so my mom said, I bet you've been wondering why I was happy all week. And I go, yes, I've been wondering why you were happy all week. And she said, on my way here, I met a couple in Chicago who doesn't have any children. They love skating. And they're very wealthy, and they want to sponsor you from this day forward. I won the lottery. So the only stipulation was I had to move to Denver to take from a coach that year was coaching a girl named Dorothy Hamill. No, it kept getting better, right? The problem was it's the trifecta. I turned 18, I was sponsored, and I got my own apartment. I came in 9th again. I fell so hard in the first minute of the program, like, you know that muscle that's right here? That one? Have you ever like fallen on that one or sat on it funny before, and your leg just sort of does this? Well, I'm out there skating, and my leg's doing this, and I'm thinking, well, if I was skating to Elvis right now, I'd probably be like crushing it, but no, I came in 9th again. And this one really hurt, because that would be the last time my mother would ever see me skating competition. She lost her battle to cancer about 3 months later. I was in her room till about 3:30 in the morning, and then I went home, and I was sleeping on the couch. And my brother-in-law at the time woke me up and said, your mother is gone. And all I could think to say is, I know. Person on the planet I love the most. And she's gone. So I just got up, and I went out in our backyard, and I just walked and walked and walked, trying to figure out how I could do this without her. How do I do life without her? I loved her more than anyone on the planet. And in that walk, I decided that I didn't have to do it without her. I could take her with me every step of the way. And I could finally aspire to be the young man and the skater that she always dreamed I could be. And so I would take her with me to the ice every day. And on those days when I'm running a little bit late, it's like, no, honor her. Oh, I'm on time. Days that I didn't feel like doing a long program run through because they're hard. They're hard. It was like, no, honor her. I do a long program run through. The next year, I was ranked 3rd in the United States and 11th in the world. 2 years later, I'm on the Olympic team in Lake Placid. And it was there that I got the news that I'd been elected to carry the flag in the opening ceremony. What? Why? I go, why? Because they wanted this Olympics to be about the journey and not the destination. It's about the journey, right? And not the destination. I was like, wow, that's really, yeah, I kind of represent that a little bit. And so I went in for my uniform fitting, and here's my world, right? What size shoe do you take, Scott? And I go, a 6. Is 7.5 okay? Sure. And then the crotch of my pants came down to here, and I rolled them up, and and then my sleeves came down to there, and I rolled them up, and then my mittens I'm the flag bearer, came down to here, and I kind of pulled them up as tight as I could, and then my hat kept coming down over my eyes. I'm carrying the flag, and I'm like trying to keep my hat from going as I'm walking into the opening ceremony at the Olympics, and I'm thinking they probably think this unknown athlete is carrying the flag because they have a condition, right? So I thought if I came in 8th, that was like awesome. I came in 5th. Then I went to the Worlds. I came in 5th again. And then something really wild happened the next month. I get up for breakfast, and I realize I'm 5th in the world. Holy cow. And then I go, wait. Robin Cousins just turned pro. I'm ranked 4th in the world. Wait. Jan Hoffman just went to medical school. I'm ranked 3rd. Wait. Charlie Tickner just turned pro. All I had to do was wake up, and I'm ranked 2nd in the world. That is a great cup of coffee. And then I've had to figure out, how do I beat the other guy? And the other guy, the year that I came in last and fell 5 times in novice nationals, as a 12-year-old was on the podium for the championship men because he was a genius at compulsory figures. I hated compulsory figures. And do you know what happens when you hate a part of your job? It tends to hate you back. I just wasn't good. They're boring. You're just tracing 8s around circles for an hour or 2. And I hated them. So I figured, okay, if I'm going to beat David, I'm going to have to lean in a little bit and try to repair my relationship with compulsory figures. So I leaned in. Figures leaned back. We started working it out, and we just started to, do the, and then finally I said, I fell in love with compulsory figures. It was amazing. I just couldn't do them enough. I just loved tracing 8s because you could see your work. You could look down and see the tracings, and it was like, I love this. So basically, from October of 1980 to March of 1984, I never lost a competition. And I'm not saying that to brag, because it was, again, everything about me is unlikely. Unlikely. So I'm standing on the podium in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia, accepting an Olympic gold medal for the United States of America based on my placement in the compulsory figures. Irony. And it was just the most amazing feeling that I got to a moment shared with the United States. I got to do this for my country. And I'm on the podium, and I'm looking over the edge of the podium, and it felt like a cliff, because it was like, I felt really, really relieved that at the end of this 4-year gauntlet, I was able to win. But then I felt like all I've ever known since I was 9 years old is now over, because what do I do now? And then the loss of, like, who am I now? And I was flat broke because it was amateur sport. I couldn't even keep a pizza delivery job because I kept having to leave for competition. I actually got fired. But so it's like I'm sitting there going, what do I do? I'm living in my best friend's parents' basement because I had no money. And now I'm the Olympic gold medalist, and it's like, now what do I do? Well, I got about another month and a half before I have to be at the World Championships because I wanted that 4th title. And then it was off to work, And again, the devastation of standing on the podium at an Olympics, just being so happy and so proud, and then wishing my mom were there. And then hearing the anthem and watching that flag go up was just like something, like I'll never hear the anthem the same again, because it puts me back every single time. And so I stepped in, I joined the Ice Capades, and the owner of, the president of Ice Capades just said, well, you know, we had to sign you, we didn't want to. Why? Well, you Olympic guys are all the same. You think the work's over. You think you did the work already. You come in, you want to make a lot of money, and then you party your brains out. You don't do the Sunday shows because you were out too late Saturday night, and all these things. It's like, no. No, I'm going to be the best employee you've ever had. And he goes, yeah, right. Again, we had to sign you because we didn't want the competition to get you. So for the next 2 years, I never missed a show. I never missed a press call, and I was a model employee. I skated to the top of my game. I skated through injuries. I did everything I possibly could to hold on to my promise that I was going to be the best employee they ever had. At the end of 2 years, I'm doing my last show. I'm sitting in the front row. It's the president of the Ice Capades. Third-year option coming up. Yes! So I did it, right? So I just skated great. I went out, got a great ovation. And then the president of Ice Capades came backstage, and he did something really interesting. He put his arm around my shoulder, and we started to walk. Okay, we're wise people in here, right? We're mature Americans. We know that if anybody ever puts their arm around you and starts to walk, it's not good. And so he said, well, you know, congratulations. You did everything you said you were going to do. I mean, I'm still in disbelief. You made it. And you know, as you know, we're going through a sale. And I go, yeah, I can't wait to meet the new owners. And he said, well, he doesn't really want to meet you. And I was like, why? And he said, well, he only really wants women stars. He doesn't want any male stars. Sexual discrimination in the workplace is alive and well in the United States of America. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So I lost my job because I was a guy. I guess now I could never mind. So I'm unemployed, and my manager sits me down, and he said, hey, I reached out to Capades. There's nothing, they don't want you. There's nothing we can do. You're done with them. And I go, yeah, I figured that. And he said, hey, do you want to help us start a tour? And I just looked at him, and I said, let me check my calendar. Like, I'm so unemployed right now. It's unbelievable. He goes, so we put our heads together, and we started a show called Stars on Ice. Has anyone ever seen a Stars on Ice show? See, you are my people. So here's kind of like the definition of passive aggression. Has anyone seen Ice Capades lately? Pausing for effect. That's right. They went out of business. I guess they didn't have enough men to sell tickets for them. So Stars on Ice was growing. Everybody wanted to be a part of it. We had, oh my goodness, we had everybody. Christy Yamaguchi won the Olympics. She goes, I'm going straight to Stars on Ice. We went from a 30-city tour to a 60-city tour. We're doing 12 cities in Canada. We're crushing it. We have Gordy Grinkoff. We have Kurt Browning, Katarina Witt, Torvalin Dean, Paul Wiley. We've got everybody you can imagine, Rosalind Sumners. We have all the great stars in skating are all in one cast in Stars on Ice, and we're selling out buildings all over the country. We're like clean to the top in Madison Square Garden. It's like, what in the world is going on? And we're just like, we're rock stars, right? We're just like having this, and this life is big, and we're just like, it's a huge success story, except by the time we got to year 11, I couldn't stand up straight anymore. It was like that. It was like, when you're a skater, this isn't good, right? You've got 15,000 people in the audience, and it's like, ta-da. So we were 50 cities into a 60-city tour. I could see the finish line, and I just couldn't stand the pain anymore. So I went into an emergency room in Peoria, Illinois, and I met this wonderful doctor named John Carroll. I'll never forget him. And he put me through some tests, and he goes, hey, did you have breakfast this morning? I go, I had a big breakfast. And he goes, well, I want to do the test again. just to make sure, on an empty stomach. And I said, okay. So I stuck around, and then he walked into the examining room, and he goes, we found a mass. And I went, ha! And he goes, what's so funny? And I go, well, I mean, no one's ever used the word mass in description of me before. I'm kind of liking this. And he goes, no, you need to pay attention to me right now. It's either benign, malignant, or something else. And then my mind started to wander, and he said, but if it were me, I'd take care of this right away. 20 years, 2 months shy of 20 years of losing my mom, and I'm being diagnosed with cancer? And the fear was unbelievable. Like, the fear. It's unbelievable. It's staring you in the face. And it's just, I'm going to diminish, I'm going to suffer, I'm going to die, I'll never skate again. It's just one thing, it's just all the negative things that just go through your mind. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but it flipped. And all of a sudden, it was like, no. I decide how this is going to go. I'm going to be the best patient they ever had. I'm going to be on tour next year. I don't care what it takes. So I stepped away. I did the show that night, which is a whole story, which was hilarious. Basically, I realized in that show that I'm good at cancer. I'm just joking. But I got to the Cleveland Clinic, and they biopsied and everything else. And the doctors came in, here, clipboards here, head tilted at a 15-degree angle, left arm swaying, all-knowing look. And they all came in. There's 4 of them. It's like, this is a show. And the doctor goes, okay, we've come to the source of your problem. I go, hit me. And they go, you have a stage 3 germ cell tumor, testicular in origin. It's like, and I'm like, no, time out. I have cancer there. And they go, you have testicular cancer. It's like, nah, that's not going to work. Sorry. No, that's not going to work. And they said, no, if you had to choose a cancer, this is a really good one. Who would choose a cancer, right? So they said, no, we have a plan and moving forward. And they go, what's your problem? I go, well, no, it's like I'm a public person, and most of the people that watch me are female, and these are my boys. And I don't really want to talk about it, like publicly like that. And they go, no, you need to take this thing seriously. And I said, no, I don't. And then my mom came back. Oh, this chemotherapy, I finally found a way to lose all this weight. Oh, this chemotherapy is fantastic. I've wanted to quit smoking all these years, now I have no desire. And then my mom would say, oh, I love this chemotherapy. My hair has always been so ugly and difficult. These wigs are so beautiful and so much easier. I'm going to be her. So no one was allowed in my room unless they made me laugh. My nurse got it right away. She would decorate my chemo bags with Snoopy stickers and Mylar. My Band-Aids were SpongeBob and Scooby-Doo. And she treated me at 38 years old like I was a pediatric patient. And it was awesome. And again, people would come in with big opus glasses and like the skinhead wigs. And Kurt Browning brought me he found a piece of chalk in one of the locker rooms at Stars on Ice, and he brought it to me because he thought it might be a good prosthetic. These are the people I'm dealing with. And it was great until round 3 where I wanted to quit. And then a friend just looked at me with a smile and said, how many rounds you got left? I have 5 days left. And he goes, come on. And I go, I can do that. So then I got through chemo, hit the tape right on time, 38 staples surgery. I call it filet au scat. And it went through everything, and now I had a seam up my abdomen, and I'm a skater which does backflips, so I had to figure that out. And I was on tour the very next year. Crazy. It's all in the response to things, right? It's how do you respond to those things, and you decide how you want to move forward. You decide, right? It's up to us on how we decide we're going to handle bad news, sickness, all those things. We decide, and I decided in that moment that I was going to be on tour the next year, and I was. And it was really funny because on that day I was diagnosed March 16th, 1997. It was March 16th, 2000. I was on tour, and Tony Thomas, Danny Thomas's son, we benefited St. Jude Children's Research Hospital as a tour, and Tony had invited some guests to the show, and I thought, oh, Tony's dating. He went through a very difficult divorce, and he's finally back in the game. Good for him. I was out of the game, but he was in the game. Good for him. So his guest was over by the production office, and I went over and I talked to, this is 3 years to the day I was diagnosed with cancer, and I'm benefiting these young children that were fighting for their lives, and it was just such an honor. And I met this young lady that was Tony's guest, and I thought, wow, if I can meet somebody like that, maybe I'm ready to get off the bench. So I didn't think about it anymore. I just thought, well, maybe now I should start putting myself out there to try to maybe get into another relationship, because I just felt off after cancer. I just knew that I was being moved. The Lord was moving me in really profound ways. And so I didn't think anything of it. So I was playing golf with Tony that summer, and he answered the phone. He was, okay, bye-bye. And he hangs up, and I go, is that the girl from Memphis? He goes, Tracy? I go, I don't remember her name, but I thought she was amazing. He goes, no, she was just a friend. She's almost like a little sister. And it's like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And he said, it's funny you should ask about her because I think she's moving to LA this week. Can you get her number for me? Of course. So I went to a barbecue, I think it was that night or the next night, and this caddy at the golf club that I belonged to, his name was Jimmy, and he's a hot mess, like a hot mess. So much fun. So Jimmy's sitting there, he's one of my crazy friends, right? And he's like, hey man, how you doing? I go, good, Jimmy, how are you? And he goes, great, hey, my cousin was supposed to come tonight, made other plans. I go, who's your cousin? He goes, Tracy, you met her in Memphis. I go, that's your cousin? He goes, yeah, our mothers are sisters. Why didn't you ever introduce me to her? It's like, grudge. And he goes, no, let's call her. I asked Tony for a number, and he goes, I got it right here. And I go, let's call her. So we called her. 3 weeks later, we went out. We finally got it together. We went out on a date, and we've been together ever since. See, what I didn't know is when she left to drive back, she was living in Nashville at the time. She was leaving with her cousin. She said, oh, I was backstage. It was really fun to see all the skaters. And she goes, I actually met Scott and talked to him for a few minutes. And she goes, what's he like? And Tracy said, this is right after I met her, and I thought, She said, that's the type of man I see myself marrying someday. So Tracy and I were dating, and we got to a certain point, and she said, okay, I like where things are headed. I don't really want to go out with anybody else. You're kind of like it, and I'm really enjoying our relationship, but I have to ask you a very serious question. I said, anything. And she said, where are you in your relationship with Jesus Christ? So I said what any smart guy would say. Where do you want me to be? And she said, no, I'm serious. Where are you? And I said, well, I believe. I don't understand. I don't understand denominational religion. There's so many things that have been a door that I couldn't break through, and I'm frustrated. I don't know what to do. And she goes, okay, okay. Let me introduce you to my pastor. So I met her pastor, who was 6'5". So I'm going to listen to this man. And I told him everything, all my misgivings and all my misunderstandings and everything else. And he said, I couldn't agree with you more. Let's get started. And so I started building my faith. And as I built my faith, everything started to come into focus. I saw the Lord in every single aspect of my life, good and bad. It was all meant to, and I couldn't identify it. It was like, why is it becoming so much clearer? And so, Tracy and I get married. We got engaged, married, and pregnant in 3 months in order. And my son was born 9 months and 2 days after we got married. I guess the remaining soldier was on the job. I don't know. But it was right after that where I became symptomatic again. And I was like, come on, what's going on? So I went to the doctor, and they said, oh, no, it's just because you're getting older. It's like my vision's off. You're getting older. It's like I don't feel good. You're getting older. I don't have any testosterone in my bloodstream. Well, we can treat that topically. I'm sure it's because everything had a reason. Everything had a description. Everything had this will be all right. And finally, I said, no, it's my vision's fine in the middle. It's just on the outsides that it's not good. And they go, oh, let's get you in for a head scan. So I go in for an MRI, and I'm walking out of the MRI room, and the physician, the attending physician there goes, there's something in there. And I go, you'd be the first to ever say that. And then the fear crept in, and I went back, and my urologist was back in the waiting room, and he said, you have a brain tumor. And it's like, that's not fair, because I did all this other health stuff. This is not fair. Why do I had the 4 years of childhood illness that was never really figured, and then I had cancer. I get a pass now, right? And he goes, no, we gotta figure this thing out. So my wife was arriving that day, and she goes, what's going on? And we went up to the hotel room, and she said, what's going on? My son Aiden was playing with the phone. He's like 14 months old, and he's just banging the phone on, and it was just like, oh, I love that kid. And she said, what's happening? And I said, I have a brain tumor. And she grabbed both my hands, she put her head down, and she started to pray. She didn't even hesitate. She started to pray. And it was the most powerful, most beautiful moment in my life. And in that, I realized where I'm taking everything from this day forward. And so they couldn't figure it out. A week later, they dug a hole in my head right there. Went down in. They said, we found a safe corridor. I go, I'm not using most of it, so have at it. And they pulled a piece out. And they said, but no, this surgery could be really problematic. You could lose speech, you could lose motor function, you could lose memory, all kinds of really bad things can happen. Why do they have to tell you? I guess they have to tell you all that stuff, right? So they went in, I woke up, I'm in bed in the recovery room, and it's 10:20 in the morning. I knew who I was, where I was, why I was there, and I went, test. Oh, I can speak. Okay, this is good. And then the doctor came in with a big smile on his face, and my wife came in with a big smile on my face, and they go, we know what it is. And I go, what is it? And they go, it's a craniopharyngioma. Like I'm supposed to know what a craniopharyngioma is, right? I go, what? They go, no, here's some information on it. We're going to go back, and we're going to huddle up, and we're going to try to figure out the best way to treat this thing. And so they gave my wife a sheet of paper, which is about craniopharyngiomas. I called it a lunatic pharyngioma because I love rock music. And so I'm sitting there going, what's a lunatic pharyngioma? And she goes, oh, listen to this. Craniopharyngiomas are usually detected early in a child's life due to a lack of growth and development. Can you imagine? I was born with this brain tumor. Can you imagine if they would have found it in the early, mid-60s? Yikes. No, it wouldn't have been good at all. And I just figure it's like if you live long enough, all questions will be answered, right? So we did gamma knife radiation. They baked my whole brain in radiation. So if I go off or anything, it's not my fault. I have brain damage. It's just the way it is, And we go back to life. And we desperately wanted a second child, but now I have pituitary brain tumor, which prohibits all hormonal function, and I had testicular cancer, which it was just, my body was just a mess, right? And so we figured, we tried everything. I self-injected 6 times a week for 2 years and nothing. And so I just asked Tracy, I go, look, this is expensive, it's painful, it's like I'm running out of enthusiasm for these shots. And she goes, I go, can I have your permission just to go back to another method of replacing my testosterone? She said, absolutely. And so we just prayed. So 6 weeks later, I'm in the doctor's office getting this thing looked at to see if it's growing again because they'd like to come back. And he kept me waiting for like 45 minutes. And I had a flip phone back then, right? The flip phone with the cameras that are really good. Like, why is there a camera on a flip phone? Right? And so I turned my phone off just to be in this meeting. And finally comes back in and he said, were you in the new imaging center? I go, I was. And he goes, oh, okay, that's why. It looked a little different. You're fine, go home. So I open up the flip phone, and there's a PICS message. And I couldn't really make out what it was. When she told me she was pregnant with Aiden, they bought a pregnancy test as a joke, and there was an empty bag there, and she told me it was positive, and I grabbed the bag, and I was like, because I was like, my world was going away. So the text message, I couldn't make out what it was, because it was, a great camera on a flip phone. Couldn't figure it out. And underneath on the text, it said, "I hope you have a bag handy." It was a positive pregnancy test. And it's exciting. But there's always a here's the thing, right? But here's the thing. So I'm so excited. We know it's a boy. It's like Aiden's going to have a little brother to play with. This is going to be so much fun. And the boy comes out with flaming red hair. I'm Irish! All questions will be answered if you live long enough. So 2 years later, the brain tumor comes back. This time it presents itself well for surgery. So I do my thing. I do my opinions. I go to the guy that invented the surgery that does this. On the way in, they nicked an artery. It turned into an aneurysm. They were able to get the tumor out. And I could have died on the operating table. I was in the hallway on my way to ICU, and all the elevators were down. It was a debacle. Everybody was screaming. I'm coming off of anesthesia, and I've never been so cold. I'm shivering, and then I start shuddering. And over, in my mind, I just felt this too shall pass, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. So I just kept telling myself that, and I stopped shuddering, I stopped shivering, and I just laid there waiting patiently to get to ICU. And it was in that adventure that I had 9 cerebroangiograms. They couldn't figure out how to repair the aneurysm. They wanted to do it from the inside. It was one thing after another, and I had to lay flat on my back for 4 days, 15-degree angle at the most. Couldn't eat, couldn't drink until they figured out how to fix this thing. They couldn't do it there, so I finally got on the phone with the Cleveland Clinic. They said, "We have a guy, that's all he does, come to us." And so I was able to get that aneurysm obliterated. It was just a hard summer, and that was right after the earthquake in Haiti, and shattered my wife's heart. So she's been going down to Haiti. She's been down there 28 times. We decided after about 12 times that there were 2 children there that desperately needed us as parents. So we adopted them. And we have 4 amazing, healthy, beautiful children. They don't have much in common, but there's a lot of love in our house. And then the brain tumor. And then the brain tumor came back again. And this time they're telling me the options, right? And I'm not normal, I guess, or something's a bit off with me. So as they're telling me the options to treat now my second reoccurrence or my 3rd brain tumor, they go, "Well, we could do it medically." Blah, 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 blah. All I'm hearing is, it's like the old Snoopy thing, blah, 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 the teachers, right? All I heard was "get strong." And I was like, here's a surgical option. We can go back in. We have to get strong. And so they go, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm going to go home and get strong." There's this overwhelming thing in my spirit to go get strong. And I didn't know what that meant. So I figured, okay, it's like, okay, well, let's keep an eye on this thing. It's small. We caught it early, so we have some time to think about this. And I said, okay. So I went home. I didn't know if I was supposed to get strong physically, emotionally, intellectually, or spiritually. So I did what I did in high school. Right before I negotiated my high school diploma, I just chose E, all the above, figuring out at least I'm going to be a little right. And so I just changed the way I lived. I ate better. I exercised. I was more interested. I was in the Word. I was reading. I was just like, I couldn't get enough of just life. I just wanted to get strong. And so I went back for the next MRI, and they go, "You're going to get into good news today." And I go, "Good news is good news." And they said, it hasn't grown. And it's like, wow, that's awesome. Come back in 3 months. So I go home, I'm getting strong, I'm doing all the things, I'm exercising, I'm eating right, I'm taking all of my supplements, I'm doing all these things, I'm in the Word, I come back and they go, it shrank. It's like, what? I go, can you explain that? And the surgeon goes, God. You know, it's good enough for me. So I just got strong. And it's like the best thing we can do is just get strong. It's been 6 years since they found it, and I stopped doing MRIs. I'm not giving it any power, any authority, any control over me. I'm just getting strong. And you know what? I urge every single one of you guys to do the exact same thing. Get strong. While there's breath in your lungs, while there's blood coursing through your veins, while you have the ability, get strong in every way you possibly can. We have so much to offer as mature Americans. We have so much to give. We have so much within us in wisdom, in intellect, in experience. We have so much to share that we just can't stand idly by and just allow for things to just sort of the momentum of this world to take us to places where there is no recovery. We have to share what we have. We have to be strong in it, and we have to keep moving forward because we are all in this together. Are you with me? All right, last story because I can see heads nodding. I'm just joking. So in 2000, I guess it was 2000, I decided that I had to come back to skating at age 51. Any 51-year-olds in here? All right, there you go. Can you imagine? So at 51 years old, I decided to come back to skating because I wanted to know if I could do it. I was really hungry for a challenge. I wanted to be able to, I got to be able to do this. So I started going to the gym. I promised I was going to be at my 10th anniversary big gala to raise money for cancer research in Cleveland. I'm going to be skating next year. Thought maybe there'd be a little excitement. So I worked really hard. I leveraged everything. Like Cheap Trick, the rock band, was going to be performing in the, they're going to do a big Beatles set. It was really, everything was coming together. And so I was in New York, and one of my dear friends used to be an executive at Madison Square Garden. We had lunch together. We're in a cab, and he goes, how's the training going? I go, I'm 51. Okay. And he goes, well, no, it's like, are you able to do stuff? I go, yeah, I'm jumping again. I'm spinning. I'm it's just different. And he goes, how's the backflip? Bobby, I'm 51 years old. Why would I do a backflip? And he goes, sorry, when was the last time you did a show without one? And I go, oh, there's expectation now. So I called up my trainer. I said, get me a gymnastics coach in Nashville. I got to learn a backflip as quick as I possibly can. I've got a month before the show. I got to do this. So I started going to the gymnastics studio, and I started trying to get over on a flip on trampolines and whatever I could do, just start to get that movement going. And about 2 weeks before the show, I was able to, with a harness and with spotters, do it on the ice. And then about a week before the show, I was finally being able, at 51, to be able to do a backflip on my own. Right? So we get to the show, and I'm really excited, and I'm like, I produce the show, I direct the show, I publicize the show, I do everything with the show, and now I'm skating in the show. And I go out for my number, and there's this, there's a camera crew in the corner, and right, they're doing all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is my moment. I go out and I skate, I land my first jump, and everything's great. I gotta go around and do this little combination, easy combination, and at the end of the combination, I have my view of this. And I realized, I just fell down after all that work. I fell down. And so I go to get up, and I was like, whoa, my legs are gone. Because I produce, I direct, I publish, I do everything with the show. And I go, uh-oh. Because I have to go all the way down there, and I have to come all the way back here where I just sat down because I'm on dead legs, 51 years old, and I have to do a backflip? Okay, this doesn't seem right. And so I get up real quick, and I come around, and if you ever saw me do this when I skated, it means that I'm out of breath, and I need a little bit of a break in order to get some strength back. And so I do this, I come around the corner, I do this, and I look square into the face of William Shatner. And I laughed, and I thought, now there's something you don't see every day. And I started laughing, and it broke the kind of the concern. I went around, I dug as deep as I could, and I threw this backflip, and I got over. And with 40 seconds of music left in my program, 8,000 people stood and pushed me to the finish line. So the camera crew comes up and they go, can we talk to you real quick? And I go, of course. You fell. I go, I did fall. And they go, that must have been humiliating after all the work you've done to get to this point. And I stopped for a second. I said, no, it wasn't. And they go, come on. I go, no, it wasn't at all. Because I wanted this night to represent everything. And it did. I fell down, and I got up. This is something we all share. We fall down, and we got to get up. We have to get up. We fail. We get up. Even if what's coming next is scary or dangerous, uncertain, we've got to get up, and we've got to face it with everything that we have, because that gives our lives value and meaning. We get up. Are you with me? So as unlikely as it is that I'm standing here, I'm blessed by the opportunity to be associated with AMAC in every and any way possible. And I'm telling you, we have so much to offer. We have so much to give, especially in our mature years. We have so much experience and wisdom that it would be a shame if we didn't find a way to pool it and share it. So I wish you the absolute best the rest of this conference, the rest of this time together. I want this organization to grow 100 times its size, and for it to be an influential entity in our world, our country, to get this United States of America back on the rails and moving towards something that will allow the next generations to be what they deserve to be, free, with opportunity extraordinaire. God bless you all. Thank you so much.